Hey, how you guys doing? My name is Joseph Guyi and this is
Javier Carlin.
And we are the New Grad PT New Grad PT mentors. I was like, yo, so I'm used to like mentoring pre-PTs, so it like throws me off half the time. But guys, welcome. We usually do a live stream on Monday mornings, but today a few things switched up. We had a pretty exciting weekend, and Javier had his girlfriend visiting, and so we wanted to make sure that we weren't, getting in the way of that. But honestly, guys, we did not want to miss out on sharing with you guys on this opportunity, or on this topic, really.
Right.
Because it's one that's really shaped us. So, what are we talking about tonight, man?
So, as the title says, we are talking about how you can say no to the right opportunities. So the right opportunities meaning things that we think are right for us, when in reality they might not be.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. And so it's funny because when we're out of PT school, there's really two ways that we usually respond to our freedom, right? On the first hand, we have the PT students that have been grinding, going at it. Obviously, if you've been in the academic system from a freaking grade school, you're just like, yo, I'm done. I got my doctorate. I'm finished. I'm ready to just work and get paid. And so because of that, you end up, kind of taking a back seat, finding a job that's comfortable, and it happens. I mean, honestly, give yourself a little bit of a, like a little vacation.
For sure.
You have earned it. You have earned it. But there's also the other flip side where we're presented with a lot of opportunities. Where we're presented with a lot of different gigs and different things that we can do. I had classmates that within 6 months of graduating went back to teach classes at my university. I got classmates that were doing travel PT. I got classmates that were doing, they were working in an outpatient clinic during the week, and then over the weekend, for maybe 1 or 2 days of their weekend, they were working home health or at a skilled nursing facility. And so they were doing all these different things, which is exciting because you really, honestly, if you're like me, you never really made that kind of money in your life, but also this is what you've been working towards. Like you've been working hard towards becoming this thing called being a physical therapist. And so you're overwhelmed many times, and it might not be everybody, but at some point you might be overwhelmed with how many opportunities are thrown at you. And so I'll get a lot of students, whether they're in PT school or graduated, that will say, hey, like, Joseph, bro, this is honestly, like, this is a lot. And so initially it's exciting, right?
Initially, yeah,
man.
Absolutely.
And so now for you, I want you to ask yourself the opportunities that you are being presented with now or will be presented with. Is it easy to say yes to all of them? Should you say yes to all of them? I read there's a book that I read. It's called Say Yes, The Year of Yes. I think it's by Shonda Rhimes. It's an amazing book. But essentially, like any opportunity that she was presented with, she would say yes to. And so as new grad PTs, should we be saying yes to everything? Should every opportunity thrown at us just be a immediate yes? Which thoughts, man?
That's there's multiple ways of looking at it. Initially, maybe you're more prone to saying yes because, like he said, you're right out of school, you're ready to make some money. I mean, how many years of schooling is that? With, like, if you want to take it back, kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, undergrad, PT school, you're ready to go out into the working world and make some cash, right?
Exactly.
But at the same time, what happens is that you get excited about that and you start saying yes to all these opportunities that might not really be in line with what you want to do, right? So what you want to do is take a step back, figure out what you want. Ultimately, what you want, and it always goes back to this because it's everything. Exactly, it's everything. What you want out of life, out of your profession, out of your career, everything, right? So once you figure that out, now it becomes easier to make decisions and say yes or no to opportunities. So I don't think saying yes to every opportunity is the right move. I don't think so. What are your thoughts?
See, but Javi, now you got me thinking, man. Now you got me thinking. So if I can't say yes to every opportunity, then how do I figure out which opportunities to say no to? Here's why we're saying this. Okay. Because just think about this. If you were given 5 different opportunities, just consider, let's say you have been given 5 different opportunities, and what we're saying is it might not be the greatest idea to say yes to all of them. If they're all 5 great opportunities, then you're stuck. If 4 of them are terrible opportunities and 1 of them is great, it's a very easy decision. So if we're presented with 5 or several different good opportunities, Javi, how do we figure out, how do I figure out how to choose what's right what's going to be valuable to me as a clinician now that I'm out of PT school. Like, how do I make that choice? What do I use to navigate me, or do I just listen to whatever I'm told by other people?
No, definitely not. I think what troubles most people is that we're so worried about making that money to pay back the student loans that we get stuck in.
You might want to say that again.
That we're so concerned about making money to pay back student loans, which it's a concern. It's a concern that a lot of us have, right? But what happens is that we make decisions based off the urgency of coin. So we want to make money as fast as possible.
Yeah.
What happens is that we start burning out pretty quickly because we're doing something that we don't necessarily like to do. And now that kind of like the way you start thinking after that, it starts to break you down physically and mentally.
It's true.
And now you start making more stupid decisions. I mean,
It's
ultimately
true,
it goes
though.
back to that.
It's true.
So find out what you enjoy doing, find your passion, make priorities for yourself, and then you need to make decisions based off not what you can gain temporarily, because again, that'll eventually, even if you say it won't affect you, people get stuck in the same job they said they were going to leave 10 years ago for 10, 15, 20 years because they just, a lot of people fall into that trap. So don't make that mistake from the beginning. If you know that you might fall into that, and no one really knows that, but don't fall for the trap of that temporary gain when you really want that long-term success over time, right?
Exactly.
So how do you do that? You have to be pretty strong.
You have to. So tonight, what I want you to do, if you're listening to this and you're asking yourself, okay, all right, so I can kind of see what they're talking about. What I want you to do is I want you to grab a piece of paper, grab your iPhone, grab a tablet, grab your computer, and I want you to write out your priorities. I have told this to a lot of my students. I want you to list out your priorities. What are your priorities? And what I want you to do is I want you to categorize them into 3 different groups. Your top level priorities, your second level priorities, which are the ones that are not as important. They don't have to get done, or they're all right. And then your lowest level priorities. That's usually where we spend most of our time, because our lowest level priorities are the ones that are the busy work, right?
Right.
Remember in class?
Yeah.
What gives you a bigger grade?
Yeah.
The final exam, or that one assignment?
Oh, the final exam.
Exactly. So where our lowest priority usually is usually where the busy work lies. And that's where it's very easy for you, myself, Javier, to get occupied. And that's where we get stuck. And so when we're doing all these different opportunities or engaging in them, we can find ourselves in that rut just telling ourselves that we're being efficient. Does that make sense?
It's so true because we feel that sense of gratification from accomplishing that little thing that really doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
But if you take care of that big thing, everything else just kind of seems to dissipate. Just
Exactly.
You don't even have to worry about it.
Exactly.
But it's so much harder to do that. That's why we don't do it.
Exactly. So how do you figure out which opportunities to say yes to? You have to look at that priority list and figure out, okay, what are my top level priorities? In my career, this is not just every single day. In my career, where do I want to end up? Myself, I know I want to be a outpatient, physical therapy practice, private practice owner. I know that. So for me, it does not make sense for me to work home health. It does not make sense for me to work in the SNF. It does not make sense for me to work in a hospital. Does that make sense? Are those areas excellent to work in? You better doggone believe it, right? But for me, it doesn't make sense. So if I'm working a few hours in an outpatient clinic and then working in a hospital on a Saturday just because of coin, and when you do anything out of desperation for coin, you do stupid things. And so if I'm putting myself in those positions, then all I'm doing is temporarily appeasing some level of desire, and my desire is to make money so I can pay off my student loans.
Right.
But ultimately, if it does not line up with your goal, then it's something you might have to say no to.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the opportunities that you will be presented and that you are currently being presented are great ones. They're just not for you.
You know what happens when you say yes to all those opportunities or the wrong ones that obviously you're not aware of at the time? You lose out on a lot of other opportunities that might have been that perfect opportunity, but now you have to say no to that. So when you choose one thing, you're sacrificing everything else. So that's why you have to be very clear, because it works in both ends. You can miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime because you're stuck in these that you thought were good at the time, but didn't really align with what you wanted. But now you have no choice but to stay with those. So guess what? All this is gone.
Exactly.
So it's huge. This is something you really have to sit down and reflect, think about, and decide from now what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Simple as that.
It's that simple.
This past weekend, we'll close with this. This past weekend, Javier, myself, my fiance, his girlfriend, we were able to, enjoy our weekend at the ocean and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. And we had a conversation with our mentor, and he was explaining to us how to be efficient, especially as a clinician. As a new grad PT, you're a clinician now.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the game. But he was saying, Joseph, Javi, you guys have to remember the 80-20 rule. You have to remember the 80-20 rule. 80% of your effort initially has to go into one thing, and then if you have like another side hustle or something else that you're investing in, that's where the other 20% lies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when things are most efficient, because that's when you're able to figure out appropriately how much time you want to invest in your dream or what you're currently doing, whether it's your current job. So for me, for example, it's been, I work at Renewal Rehab, clinic director, physical therapist there, but then I also have an online business. So that online business is getting 20% of my effort and time, whereas my clinic is getting 80% of that. And so at some point that may switch, right? Who knows? But at all times, that 80-20 rule is the best navigation beacon for this whole thing. Because if you start putting yourself in a position where you have 10% here, 20% here, 30% here, 20% there, like once you start breaking it up like that, your efficiency goes down. But then 5 years from now, you just look back and you say, like, what the hell was I doing? Like, not that you did anything bad, but now you just don't have any particular direction. We each have some direction, some drawing, some calling, and if you haven't figured that out yet, it's fine. But at some point, we will all you will have some kind of a calling or a drawing in the field of physical therapy at some point. Follow it. Don't get trapped in doing anything out of the desperation for what you feel like you need right now. And what that means is pretty much like loans. Don't just do that because, hey, if I can do all these different things, spread myself thin, like it's gonna start eating at everything else. It's gonna start eating at your family life. It's gonna start eating at the things that you want to enjoy. And then what happens is now 6 months in, 2 years in, 3 years in, you're part of the other 80% of physical therapists that I keep hearing saying, I'm burnt out, I'm this, I'm that. I can't tell you how frustrated I was just to, like, as a pre-PT, just to listen to PTs that just didn't love what they did. And I'm like, why would I thought it was a great profession. I was coming into it. So why would I go into it if they don't seem happy? And if we don't follow what actually fits with our priorities. This is not some like oh, follow your dreams, follow your heart. No, this is like for real.
Yeah.
If we don't follow where our priorities lie, if our actions don't fall in line with that starting now, right out of school, then it's gonna throw you off your game entirely. Can you always redirect yourself? Well, of course. But it's gonna throw you off your game entirely. And that's where we end up putting ourselves in positions that we don't really enjoy. Because my guarantee is that most of y'all, you pretty much chose physical therapy for some kind of a reason. Maybe there's, 1 or 2 people that might be watching that felt like, hey, this is just my backup plan. But you, I can guarantee that you chose physical therapy for a reason. So just the same reason that you chose physical therapy for, let that be what's pushing you out of it. As in, let that be what's navigating your passion and your drive as a physical therapist now. Don't fall into the trap of trying to do things for the temporary gain and end up losing that dream, losing that passion, losing that energy that pulls you into this amazing profession.
That's it, guys.
Anyway, we'll be coming on live tomorrow morning. See you then.
See you then.
Deuce.